Thank you, Chairman Conrad, and thank you for this hearing. And I think the title, Putting Health Care Spending on a Sustainable Path, is a valuable topic for us. It really is, and we've got to be serious about it. I would note that it is critically important that we have honest talk about honest numbers, about real projections, and what's going to be happening in the future and what's happening today. Before a joint session of Congress in September of '09, the President stated, "I will not sign a health care plan that adds one dime to our deficits, either now or at any time in the future, period." However, the legislation that became law included numerous budget gimmicks to hide its true cost. These included double-counted Medicare savings, premiums from now-defunct Class Act program that scored as a surplus, and hiding the cost of the doc fix. In fact, when the gimmicks are added up, the President's health care costs added $700 billion to the deficit. This chart indicates that. The claim was that it would save money and reduce the deficit, but when properly accounted, it increased the deficit. Look at this chart. This is a dramatic thing, because we were told if we would adopt this health care plan, we were going to change our debt trajectory. We were going to get off the unsustainable path we're on. And I would say the facts are quite clear. It makes it worse, does not make it better. It did not change the cost curve as we were promised, except to make the cost curve worse. Our national debt per person today is nearly $45,000 per person, man, woman, and child, more than Greece. The President's budget plan sent to Congress would grow our total debt by another $11 trillion over the next 10 years. By the end of 10 years, interest payments will be $850 billion annually, interest payments. That means that we will spend $200 billion more on interest than we'll be spending on defense. Similarly, the President's health care policies, rather than tackle the long-term drivers of debt like Medicare, simply rated that program to pay for the new entitlement spending and puts the entire budget on an even more dangerously unsustainable path. In fact, today marks the 4th consecutive year the President has defied the legal requirement in the United States Code to submit a Medicare, as a result of the Medicare trigger, to submit a legislative proposal to Congress that addresses Medicare's coming insolvency. This is not only a requirement of law, it's a requirement of a leader. When your Medicare program is going out of control, we passed legislation that when that happens, the President should submit a plan to help fix it. He ignores that for 4 consecutive years. The President admitted in the introduction of his budget that health care is the major driver of our future deficit growth. But where is his plan to avert the disaster? His budget shows no leadership in addressing the cost of health care entitlements now or in the future. His budget increases health spending over the next 10 years and does nothing to alter the unsustainable federal health care spending over the long term. By 2030, just 8 years past our budget window, nearly 100% of federal revenue will be consumed by entitlement obligations and debt interest payments. Under the President's budget plan, our debt remains permanently above 100% of GDP. Meanwhile, in the midst of the crisis, our Senate Democratic colleagues refused to even do a budget for the 3rd consecutive year. President Obama and the Senate leaders say that they want to help the middle class, but their health care law has dealt a hammer blow to working Americans. Their premiums have gone up, and their refusal to control our surging debt threatens the American people with economic disaster. The President's budget even hikes taxes almost $2 trillion to pay for a new $1.6 trillion spending increase. All the while, he says his budget cut spending when it increased spending by $1.6 trillion. This is the kind of thing that is causing the American people to be angry with Congress. We say we're putting this country on a sound path. The President repeats it time and time again, and it's not so. President Obama's budget would bleed this nation dry, keeping us on an unsustainable course, taking from the private sector to fund the public sector until both have been led to financial ruin. I choose a more optimistic future. We can do better. A future where we empower the private sector so that millions of Americans can get back to work and that we can leave our children with a brighter future, not one clouded by a mountain of debt.